starting this thing off, you've talked to some very, very interesting people. You've talked to some legends in the consciousness realm. So, where does this all come from? What compels you to reach out to these people and have conversations with these people?
I actually, when I started, it was a spontaneous thing. I used to love researching about these topics and reading about them. And then I wanted to do something on YouTube. So I thought I might as well combine these two hobbies and create something. So there was no plan that I have to meet all these people. It was just like wherever my excitement followed me, wherever my excitement was, I followed that.
I
Um,
see.
and it's amazing. Like when I look back now, uh, it's I'm very grateful for the experience.
Yeah. So, have you always been interested in, diving deep into the human condition?
Yeah, I love researching deep into these topics. I don't know where that interest comes from. I love understanding things more closely than they appear to be. So it's it's just like a passion where I don't know where it comes from. I There's no like reason. It's not like some specific reason for which I'm doing it. It's following an inner passion. I'm curious, like if you had the same like motivation, or was there something that pushed you into like starting this channel and interviewing all these different guests?
Yeah. It's pretty much the same as you. I mean, if anybody knows me in my personal life, they'll know that I've always liked to have, I guess, deeper than the surface level conversation. I've always been the one to ask questions with people. Like, I've always, I don't know, like, I've always, yeah, just simply been curious about somebody's point of view. And then I've always been a fan of podcasts as well. I just like conversation in general. Like I've always just liked having conversations with people. I don't know what it was. It's just like the art form of conversation is something special to me. Like I listen literally right now. I listen to probably like 2, 3 podcasts a day. It's just something that I just love. Like just getting intertwined with somebody's words. So I started to listen to other people's podcasts, and I said, wait a second, I can do this. And here I am doing it. And yeah, why? It's just because, like you said, it's just something that just tickled my fancy. It's just something that I just like to do. So I said I'm gonna follow my heart in that regard. And from there, I just still doing it. I'm still following my heart, and it's been a beautiful journey, meeting beautiful people all over the world. And being able to do that is such a blessing. It really is to be able to do this and have the ability to do that in today's world where I can reach out to people all over the world and do this literally from my room and have a talk show from my room. It's so amazing to be able to have this opportunity to do it. And yeah, just like you said, just kind of following some kind of internal guidance, leading the way, and following what I truly like to do, which is how I got started on this. Like I just like conversation in general. So that's kind of the gist of it. How I got started with doing this podcast. Yeah.
I, I can 100% relate to that. That's it's something like unexplainable, like where that passion comes from. It's like an inner liking, or following an inner voice where you talk to all these different people, and I feel I mean like very grateful that I got that opportunity, because as you said, like it's in today's with today's technology, we are lucky to be able to do that. Like before, maybe one had to like um, have buy all these expensive equipments and travel around the world to have that opportunity. So we are very lucky that we get to do that from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. It's really amazing. We take this technology for granted because we have it all in our pockets, and it's just something that we use every day. But the fact that I'm able to talk to you and other people from across the country, across the world, at an instant, almost like we're in the same exact room. That's so powerful. Like that's so when you really sit down and think about that. Like it doesn't even make any sense. If you were to bring this technology back into the medieval ages, they'd be like, "Whoa, what is that sorcery? How do you even do that?" Like you would have to explain a camera and the internet connection and how it all works. It doesn't make any sense. But we take it for granted. We just think it's just part of our life now. But not even going back to the medieval ages. If you go back 20, 30 years, that's still crazy technology to be able to do this. So I try not to take it for granted and use it to the best of my ability to, one, not only further my own journey to the self, but hopefully, maybe affect somebody else along the way. And here I am. Yeah.
And when you interview people, do you notice a difference, like when you are like listening to someone's podcast passively versus actually interacting with them and asking questions directly? Were there any things that were different for you in your experience? Were there new things that you discovered when you're interacting with them directly?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, well, I find myself now that I do a podcast, when I'm listening to others, I'm like, I wish I was there. I wish I was in the room, because there's some points I'm like, I wish I could say this to them at that point. So I don't know. I've never really thought about it that much other than that point. Like there's been times where I'm like, oh, I wish I, because I guess that's the point of a podcast, right? It's like we're kind of like hanging out in the whoever's listening is hanging out with us. They just can't interject. So there's points when I'm listening to other people's podcasts, I'm like, damn, I wish I could interject. I wish I could have brought up that point, and so that they could go down that route. That's probably the biggest thing from it. And then sometimes when I'm listening to other people talk, when I'm interviewing them, I forget. Sometimes I actually forget that I have to interject, and I'm not just a listener. Like I'm just so engrossed in whatever somebody's saying. I'm like, oh wait, hold on a second. I'm actually the host right now. I gotta like say something. I gotta like think of something. So it goes both ways. It depends on the situation and who I'm talking to. But yeah, ultimately it's just been I've been able to really dive more into the art form of really what a podcast is, because if you don't do it, I don't think one has the appreciation that you would if you do it. Because to somebody that doesn't do a podcast, it just looks like we're just talking right now. They're just talking to each other. But it's a lot more than that. It's me and you, or even if there's a third or fourth person, whatever it is, it's the whole cast of the podcast creating this one novel moment together. Like creating this one mind in a way. And especially when you're talking about the stuff that we normally talk about, like if you're talking about sports or Game of Thrones or just something that of entertainment, that's cool, but it's not the same thing as being able to have this like meditative experience with another human being. And doing that is more than just talking. There's talking on the surface level, but involved in that talking is ideally two or more minds creating this one novel moment together and recording it for the future. And then ideally the listener will be able to like tap into that moment with the people that created it, and it creates this novel moment that's essentially throughout history. I mean, throughout time. Like, for as long as the internet's around, we have this literal. This is kind of meta. We have this literal moment right now that we're recording that anybody at any time in the future will be able to listen to and tap in. That's the magic of a podcast. It's that we're capturing literally this time, this space and time right now. We're capturing this. It's kind of crazy, and I'm kind of going off a little bit, but ultimately what I'm trying to say off of your question is like it's made me revere what a podcast is. It's made me revere the art form of a podcast a lot more doing this. Yeah.
It's really refreshing for me to talk to another interviewer, because I've learned similar things. I can relate to how, especially with these topics, it can be abstract and it can be very challenging to talk about some of these concepts. So communication, I feel like it's you understand, you start to understand like how difficult it is to explain some of these subtle things.
Yeah.
And I have a deeper appreciation for people who are able to do that, to be able to express some of these things verbally. And some of these things are unexplainable. So that's another challenge I come across when even while asking questions, like how to frame a question, how to put it in words, and also when I was new, like I used to get a bit overwhelmed with the technicalities, because you have to, especially while doing in-person interview, like keeping track of everything, like whether a camera is recording, whether everything is switched on,
Yeah.
and focusing on the question you're asking, as well as while listening to the person. So you're present with them. It used to be overwhelming at the beginning, but I feel like slowly, like it took me a long time to kind of like um, get comfortable with that, because and then over time you figure the technicalities start kind of like going in the background, and you can stay focused with the person.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other layer of creation too, is the dirty work, like the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see. That's another thing when people think they're just talking. Well, in order for us to just talk, it's a, you know, like you said, setting up the camera, making sure the camera works with the software. There's inevitably going to be technical difficulties. Then making sure the audio system is right, making sure the other person's audio comes through. It's just there's a whole list of stuff that people don't understand. But that's what makes it worth it. Like when it truly works, and something comes together with another person, ideally you create something magical. And like I said, you have that magic moment. This magic moment. You have that forever, right? You have that recorded in time. Like you have that. You we literally have like that's what I think. All right, so let's go down this route. The power of video, right? I think that's another thing we take for granted. Video is literally in audio recording, we're literally like capturing time. Like this is like time travel right now, right? So we're doing this right now, whatever, but in the future I can watch this and come back into this moment. And that's so special to me. That's another reason why I do what I do, because it's like I don't know, it's almost like a form of legacy. You know, it's almost like leaving something here while I'm here. Like leaving a little piece of myself while I'm here that I can reference, maybe my kids will reference, maybe other people will reference in the future and be like, oh, there's that Gary guy. He's doing his thing back in 2022, doing his thing. And it's just so cool. Like, I think video, the whole concept of video and the way that we can do it, make movies, documentaries, podcasts, vlogs, whatever it is, the fact that we can even just do that, like capture moments in time, that's so magical to me. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something so like it's so precious that we can do that. It's time travel. It's the closest thing we have to time travel. So I'm taking advantage of that in my whole creative process. I want to become a time traveler, and here I am. I'm a time traveler. We're time traveling together, Suma.
I love that. I do agree that it seems like a, a basic technology, but it's very powerful, especially because you can also go back and see how much you have grown since first you began.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
that can be quite powerful, because sometimes you can lose track um, of like these minor changes that happen in you on a daily basis. But when you log your journey, you clearly see like, wow, I'm so different than I used to be a couple
Yeah.
of years ago.
Seriously. Yeah, sometimes I watch old videos of mine. I'm like, oh my God, I would never say that. Or I'd never act like that. And I'd probably say that now. I'd probably like look back at this video and think, oh my God, like why did you even say that or do that? But that's cool to be able to do that and have that kind of humility in oneself to be able to show growth and to really reflect on one's growth. But yeah, I try not to watch my old videos because that's kind of that can get a little strange, a little egotistical. But sometimes I do like to look back on old memories in a way. But yeah, what do you think this whole thing has taught you? Like, what is this? What have you gotten from doing this with people? Like, have you become more wise, more intelligent, more patient, What do you think? Other than like getting better at creating podcasts, what has this whole process uh, done for you?
It's been quite transformative, especially because when I started, I didn't have any goal that I want this to happen or that to happen. I just did it for fun and spontaneously. So I didn't expect that it would transform me at such a deep level, because
Mm-hmm.
since I began up till now, I feel like uh, there are a lot of things I wouldn't do the way I used to do before. It has drastically changed me. And
Like what?
like, for example, I think some of these interviews I did with the non-duality stuff and Advaita stuff, that especially was quite impactful for me, because um, I think it has the power to kind of like seeing through your own thought patterns, like
Yeah.
how you trapped you get into some of these stories. And there's something about it, like maybe it's like a secondhand effect of talking to many people, where um, you see through those stories, and it doesn't have that power on you anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So,
agree. Those
so,
ones are trippy.
huh? Sorry, go ahead.
The Whenever I speak to Advaita people and non-dual people, those are trippy. Like I get to points where I'm just like, whoa, just I don't even know what to say. Yeah, definitely powerful in that regard. It's a meditative experience doing this.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Anything else though? Like what else? So pretty much it's transformed your viewpoint on the self with a capital S. Is that what you're getting at? Like doing these things as like secondary, like almost like in the moment has transformed your viewpoint of what it means to be a human being.
Yeah, although it seems like a simple insight, I feel like the unraveling of that is constant.
Yeah.
And although it may seem like nothing has changed on the surface, a lot can change um, within you. It's like, for example, like although some of these stories, they seem like imaginary stories, and they may seem like not like really significant, but once you see through it, like it's like a big weight taking off your shoulder, because we don't realize like how much time we spend in getting trapped in some of these voices, and so it's now I understand like what like some of these speakers talk when they talk about freedom and liberation. Like that's a big freedom to have, like when you're not getting sucked into some of these mm, traps.
Yeah. Yeah. Freedom from the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge.
How about yourself? Like, were there insights that made a big effect on you in your like in your own inquiry when you interviewed so many people?
You say, how has the whole process changed me?
Changed you, or were there any insights that stood out for you, like, like compared to like most like um you have had many conversations, so were there any insights that made a big impact on you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely, for sure. And you could probably see it in video. They could probably see my like instant reaction. I can't really reference anything right now though, nothing specific, but pretty much what you described. I mean, there's just too many to reference. I don't even know, but the non-dual Advaita ones definitely have been the most challenging, but the most like fulfilling in a way. It's hard to explain. Um, yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question to be honest with you. I guess it ultimately pretty much what you described, but just go off of what you described. It just allowed me to disregard the story of the self, and hearing it from other speakers just put in slightly different ways, but the same essence has been powerful. Everybody has their own flavor, like a way to like dress up this the truth, but it's good to like it's good to reference others to see how they do it and how they might describe this infallible truth that we're getting at. I think that's the biggest thing is the biggest one of the biggest insights that I like to say is that the truth is one and the wise call it by many names. And through this exploration of others, I've found that truly the wise do call it by many names. And I think the names are endless. The metaphors are endless to however you want to describe this truth of, one could say, the kingdom of heaven lying within, the freedom, that liberation, moksha, whatever you want to call it. That's the thing. There's so many different ways that we can call it, but ultimately the words don't do it justice. There's no even string of words that will do it justice. We can guide one maybe to a sense of that, but ultimately the words don't do it justice, that sounds ironic. As we're doing a podcast about it, it seems a little hypocritical, right? You're going to try and talk about something that you can't talk about, but I think I'm still figuring it out, but I still think there's value in that, and to try to speak about the unspeakable. I think that's what I chase in a way, is to not give up the journey. Like, don't give up. Don't think all is lost. The truth is unknowable, so why do we even try to talk about it? I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think that gives me more gumption into trying to find said truth, even though I know in the back of my head that I will never be able to reach any kind of conceptual formulation of this said truth. There's still something that wants to go and just yearn for that in others and question how one could describe and guide others to that. And I don't know if that's ever going to end in me. I just love that. I love being able to just hear somebody's poetry and try to describe the symbolic meaning of this infallible truth. There's just something about that, because we can guide others. We can definitely guide others in the way, but ultimately everybody has to follow it in their own way. So I like to see how others do it in their own way, and I like to see how others will explain it in their own way. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think I know what you're getting at, or at least what we're trying to get at.
It does, like it, and that's what I also kind of over the time I'm learning. It's okay to be like it. I'm comfortable with the paradox that it's undescribable, but everything you describe is also that.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with that contradiction.
Yeah. I think that's what I've gotten, is to be comfortable with the contradiction. I like that. To be okay with the paradox. And almost like play a game with the paradox. Knowing it's a paradox. It's an unsolvable paradox at the end of the day. The human condition. Why we're here. The meaning of life. It's an unsolvable paradox. But I just love that. I don't know why. I just love the mystery. I think natural human predisposition is to like fear the paradox, like fear our true origin. Excuse me. To fear the meaning of why we're here, fearing the mystery. But I go head first into that mystery. There's something, and I think the podcast, I was definitely already on that foundation, but the podcast has propelled me into going and just diving head first into this mystery, into a sense of not knowing and being okay with not knowing and not stopping at not knowing. Keep going and keep going into that not knowing. And that's the thing, right? Is the more that one dives into that sense of not knowing, it almost like extenuates the not knowing, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain. It's like the only thing that we can know about ourselves is that we will never know. but like that doesn't mean give up the journey. And the more that they're, personally speaking, the more that I've been on this journey, the more I can find that I don't know. The more mysterious this life becomes, but yet also the more magical it becomes as well. I think the mystery is not to be feared, because within that mystery there is a semblance of magic. There's a semblance of grace, of blessing, of maybe purpose, if you want to use that word. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's this. I know it's an inevitable mystery, but that's what I live for in a way. You know, I live for the mystery and speaking with others about the mystery, and I think probably you do too. Like you probably know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I love that too. Like it's my passion. And although it's an unsolvable mystery, I love constantly unfolding more and more of it. Uh,
Yeah.
it's it's a fun process.
Mm-hmm. Fun to say the least. You know, other people probably think we're crazy, but that's okay. They can think what they want to think. Yeah. Do you find any like what's the word I'm looking for here? Hold on a second. Cohesion between all of the people that you've spoken to? Like, is there like some kind of pattern of truth? Because you've gotten different viewpoints and different paths and practices. So how do they all relate, would you say?
Uh, I especially feel in the non-dual Advaita world, like although they have their own different flavors of expression, they all are kind of pointing to the same message end of the day. And they may have like differences in some of the some things, like neo Advaita can have its own stance compared to like traditional way of talking about Advaita.
Hmm.
But I feel like eventually they all are pointing to the same thing.
Yeah. In what way, though? How would you describe that? Could you go deeper into that?
I'll try. I'm not good at it, but I'll try.
I mean, no pressure. I'm not trying to force you into it, because it is truly infallible. It is truly unspeakable.
I think they all are kind of pointing to how uh, this identification with this ego, like that can create a strong self of false self. Like this is
Yeah.
who I am, this body, the job I have, the people that I'm surrounded with. And they all are trying to wake us up out off of that limited construct to like your everything, you know, the consciousness, you know, every your what you see, um, what you feel, what you think, all of that is you. and and that's a big shift to have, where you're not trying to box your identity into this small construct. So that's why it kind of feels as though like you untied a tight shoe, because now it's everything. Your definition of self, identification of self has changed.
Yeah. Which means we don't suffer as
Yes.
much. That's kind of what the essence of this whole non-dual thing is. It's like I don't exist. There's no self. Like, what does that mean? You know, to someone that doesn't know any better, it's like, what? Why would I want to not exist and have the viewpoint of no self? Well, ultimately, I would explain that as well. As the Buddha says, this sense of self with a lowercase s is a sense of suffering. You know, dukkha. We're here to suffer in a way, in a way. But if you can re-examine what it means to be a human being in a certain way through self-inquiry, through the countless modalities that they have out there, and really just question yourself, question the stories that come in, your conditionings, whatever it is, and then maybe you can find that the self that you think is suffering does not quite exist. So that means all of your suffering does not exist either. That's ultimately the point that I get from the Neo Advaita stuff. is to free ourselves. Because, you know, we talk about freedom, liberation, um, you know, what's the Sanskrit word? I can't think of it right now. But yeah, I think it's moksha, um, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. You know, we want to free ourselves. What are we freeing ourselves from? We're freeing ourselves from this existence that seems so dark. It seems so bleak. It seems like there's so much inertia, like the world's against us. You know, eventually we're gonna get old and sick and die, and shit's gonna happen to us, right? So this viewpoint for me is freedom from that, because all that is story. Like we said, all of that is just a story that we place upon this experience that we call a human being. So finding out that, yeah, man, you don't really exist. That's the good news. We don't really exist here. I mean, we kind of do in a way, but it's an illusion. And just because, and I think that's the big thing too, is like we think, you know, you probably heard people say the self is an illusion. Well, that doesn't mean you don't exist in a way. It kind of does, but it's like that. An illusion doesn't mean non-existence. It just means the way that we look at it is a little bit different, right? It doesn't mean there is nothing going on. It's just that what you thought was going on is a little bit different than what's actually going on. I hope I'm making sense here.
Yes.
So that's what the whole non-dual viewpoint I get from it is that what's going on here, which is truly infallible, but I'm gonna try and explain it. What's going on here is not what you've been told is going on, or what you've been conditioned into is going on, and it's within your own conditions to find out that what's going on is beyond the suffering. Because if you go with the stories, you're gonna suffer. If you go with the narratives, the ego mindset, then there's going to be suffering. So you find out that what's going on is beyond the story, beyond the human in a way, and thus we are free and we are liberated from that sense of seemingly inevitable suffering. And I think that's what we all want. I think that's what we're all trying to get out of this human experience is to free ourselves from pain, not even pain, free ourselves from what we think pain is, emotional pain, physical pain, like what we think these things are, and just re-examine it, have a different perspective, have a different conscious perspective on what is going on, the going on here of the human experience. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, hope that made sense.
Yeah, and maybe physical pain may be still there in some cases. For some people, there may still be physical pain in the body, but the suffering is not there. Like you are not, it's less likely that someone is going to get trapped in the stories of like create. I think it's that creates suffering,
Yeah.
which is different from like having like a physical pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's slightly different. I've even noticed from this whole journey myself, like inducing my own pain, or when I'm in pain. I know that sounds weird. I'm not a masochist. I meant like, you know, like taking cold showers and doing really intense yoga, really intense workouts, going for a run even though I don't want to, and really just sitting with that. Like sitting with that pain and that yearning for not wanting to be in that moment. If that makes sense, and just sitting with that and realizing that that's not me. You know? Like realizing that sorry, I got something. I'm chewing something. It's a piece of my tea. I'm realizing that any of that physical, the bodily sensation that is happening, even the mental sensation in that moment that's happening, it's not me. Like there's that sense of detachment in a way that I can reach. And then any pain that's not induced, not self-induced, it's almost easier to handle. I can almost bear it a little bit easier, it seems, and disconnect and almost meditate on that pain. Become the noticer of that pain and whatever's going on. And it's so valuable to be able to do that and just see that as just another story. It's hard, definitely easier said than done. You know, if I got my finger cut off right now, I wouldn't be able to just like, oh, just be with the pain, man. You know, I'd probably be freaking out. But it's a journey. You know, it's a process to be able to do that. But I think that's the essence, is to just be it. Whatever comes up in our life, whatever happens, because shit's gonna happen. Whatever happens in our life, to be able to really be with it, no matter what it is, to just simply be with it, be with the illusion, and see that whatever happens in the movie screen of our life on the five senses, or maybe six senses if you believe that, whatever happens is just another happening of the movie. It's just another scene. It's just another phenomena that comes and goes. It's all temporary. I think that's the greatest thing that I've gotten from this, right? Is that within this non-dual perspective, I could see the scenes just playing out. Almost like take a step back. Even though there is no step back, there is no separation, right? That's what we can get at. But there is, I don't know, there is like still a sense of like being able to just like watch it in a way. There's that sense of that Atman consciousness, just that I can just like just watch all of this. And like I said, it's easier said than done. But the more that one does it, the more that one meditates on whatever it is, the breath, running, cold showers, yoga, I find that the easier it is to do in whatever happens in our life, whatever, you can take a step back and just simply witness. And then from that witnessing, you can discern on how to act, right? So we don't act in a way that produces bad karma, which will essentially make it so that we free ourselves in the future. I guess that's the whole thing, is that we, yeah, you can witness. I see it as like, yeah, we can reach this witness consciousness, but it's like, what are you going to do with that? Like the play still goes on and you're still an actor in the play. So it's like you can witness the play, and then from there you act accordingly to love, essentially. Act according to a more sattvic way of life, which means it's a more pure, a more harmonious way of life, a way that doesn't build any kind of karma toward yourself and others, like a way that is wise, I guess you could say, a way that, like, almost like, what would Jesus do? Have that idea in your head at all times. That's what allows, from this non-dual perspective, for me, from this point of view, for me to be able to just act accordingly in this movie, because the show goes on. The show goes on that we have to witness, and I know that I have a role here to play in the show. So it's like, from that discernment, how am I gonna write the script in a way to this show, in a way that is conducive to, in a way that is conducive to it's lessening the suffering of myself and the suffering of others in this moment and in the future. Yeah. I don't even know. What was your original question? I don't know where this is coming from. Just doing some channeling here.
No, but yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of like traditional gurus, they see that as like the first step of enlightenment, where you are able to shift from that being super involved to like a witness mode, observer state. And and then like that, there are different opinions on that. Like some people say that's just the beginning of your path in towards enlightenment, whereas some people say that is it, like that's all. Like one is already enlightened.
I think we all have our own definition of enlightenment, and ultimately you can't define it. I do think it's, in a way, yeah, you get the taste. This is kind of what I got from talking to people too and listening to other people online, is you get the taste of divinity, if you want to call it that. Like, you kind of realize that there is a God, in a way, if you want to call it that. There is a greater purpose to being a human, and that's the first step. Once you get that download, like once you get that glimpse into a greater reality, if you want to call it that, then it's like, all right, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that insight? So I guess it's just a matter of perspective. I guess you could look at that as the beginning and the end of enlightenment, or one could look at that as it is just the beginning and it's just getting started here. So I don't know. I guess I could see both viewpoints. I'm not definitive in either one, but I do see getting that glimpse, getting the taste of the divine as a beginning of some kind of way to act, I guess one could say, as in a, we awaken out of the dream state. Like there's still a going on here. I guess you could say there's still like to the outside world, there's still Gary, there's still Suma, and there's still a way that we have to act to others accordingly. So there's still a going on here, whether or not we have or hadn't had the glimpse into the divine. So yeah, I've heard stories of people where they ask their master, how old are you? And he says, obviously he was like in his middle ages or something, a little older, and he says, 15. I'm 10, 15 years old. And he's only gives his age to when he quote unquote woke up. Like that's when he was reborn in a way. And that's what a lot of people see it as too, is like a sense of rebirth. Once you can kind of realize that there's a lot more going on here as a human being than what you've been told in the media, on Fox News and on TikTok, then that is a sense of rebirth, a renewal in one's being and how we act here and what we do here, the energy that we cultivate and curate for the world. I see that as a rebirth and a renewal. Is it the beginning or the end? I don't think it matters. I don't think those are just another label. It doesn't really matter how you want to look at that or how you want to approach that. But there is still, I recognize, there's an outside perspective that other people are going to see me and judge me in a way, I guess. So like, it's like, what am I going to do about that? And I don't do it for others, but I do recognize that there is this, that others are me, if that makes sense, that I am others. So it's like, how am I going to treat myself, but also myself? As above, so below. That's what one can kind of realize. So beginning or end, I don't know, but there is a change, even though there's no change in the true non-dual sense. I still would argue though that there is a sort of light bulb moment. There's almost a spark that goes off in one's being, at least from an outside point of view, where one may change the way that they act to be more, like I said, sattvic. Did you have a certain change in your life? Was there like a certain moment that happened to you and you came to glimpse into this sense of divinity, or were you always on this wavelength?
I think there was a point where it was more like a click. Although like before, I had this vague idea about like there is something more. But I think in the process of doing these interviews and meeting so many amazing speakers, there was a point where it was like a click where um, it just like it's like a moment where you realize like this is so simple, like it's obvious that this is it. And I feel like after that point it was more like a lot of stuff started changing, like although not on the surface level, but internally I think it's a big transformation when that the identification of me, it kind of like collapses. It's with some people it's different. With some people it's a gradual thing. With some it's like a click, whereas in some cases it's like it's gradual, but it may seem like it happened at one specific moment. But I feel like there is a constant unfolding of that, like after that realization happens.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's different for different people, I think, how that realization sinks in.
That's what I ultimately. That's my quest, is to find others' light bulb moments. Like, how did somebody get on this path? Because there's some very unique viewpoints and unique individuals out there that I've spoken to and that I'd like to speak to and that I'm speaking to right now. There's some unique individuals and unique stories and how people conduct themselves in their regular life and online. So I always want to like, I'm so curious. Is that just, I'm like how, why? Like, what is, why? Where did this all come from? That's kind of like how I do this whole creation process online here. It's like I'm just so wondrous of other people's viewpoint on this, because like, you know, we're all talking about the same thing. The truth is the truth, and the wise call it by many names, like I said. But everybody's got their own flavor. Everybody's got their own way that it happened to them. Some people, they get it through a very traumatic experience where they can't like, there's no other option than to turn to the divine, than to turn to God, right? Which I think is happening to a lot of people, to be honest with you right now. Others, it's just like divine grace. Some people just that I've spoken to, it just happens. Like all of a sudden, it just like literally they just get this like glimpse into the lie that they've been living in. It just happens, whether they're like in their cubicle at work, or they're on a bus, or it just happens. I don't know how else to explain it. A lot of people that I've spoken to take psychedelics, and they get downloads from those, which I think ultimately is almost like a traumatic experience in a way, even though it's not like traumatic as in like it causes pain, but it's a big wake up call that psychedelics can cause somebody. And ultimately, it's just like I said, it's a wake up call. Like whatever happens in somebody's life, you get like a tap, you get the turn on, you start to tune into a different frequency, if you want to call it that. But that's what I yearn for in others. Like I want to know what's going on, because there's something going on here collectively, right? That's what I've come to the conclusion of too. There's something going on here right now in this time that we're living in, where people are fed up with the old ways, and we're looking for something new. And that something new is the path. It's the path to our own inner sanctity. And we're all figuring it out in our own way. And that's the journey I'm on, man. I'm figuring out myself, but I'm also figuring it out. I'm figuring out how other people are figuring it out. And it's a wondrous process. And I
It,
think it's literally unique to every individual. Everybody has their own karma, but I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to happen for all of us, because it seems like it's becoming exponential at this point. But I think it's going to happen to all of us, because there's not going to be any other choice. You know what I mean? I think that there's only going to be God. And you can call it God, you can call it non-duality, you can call it your higher self, but I think there's only going to be that essence that one can turn to in themselves to find that sense of peace, that sense of guidance, and that sense of harmony in their life. And life is only getting more and more chaotic. It's only getting more and more dark. It's only getting crazier out there, right? And I think that craziness is going to turn a lot of people on, because there's going to be uh, it's like that's the switch. It's like that kind of that chaos, that conflict is going to bring people to find the harmony. And I think that's what's happening in this world. It's an interesting time to be alive. Do you find that as well, though? Like, do you think that what's happening, and I know, you know, from a non-dual sense, you can be like, oh, nothing's happening. It's all good. It's the moment, right? Which I get that, right? But if there's still the there's still the outside phenomena that we could, the story, you know, there's still the collective story that's happening in other individuals, right? Do you find that the story is that people are finding out that it's a story, and you have to use the story to and find out the chaos in the story is actually a way out of the story? Like, do you see that as in a collective level right now?
yeah, it's so interesting you ask this question, because I'm seeing that a lot more recently, more than ever, because especially, and by the way, thank you for introducing to that AI too, because that got
Oh,
me into
philosopher AI.
yeah,
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
it got me into this rabbit hole of AI and artificial intelligence. I was already trying to look into doing something with work related with AI stuff. And it's crazy to me how I'm getting a glimpse into the AI world where it's starting to look almost like psychedelic realm.
Oh yeah.
But
Mhm.
it's insane. And it's
Mhm.
happening in a very weird way where the tech seems to be going in the direction where they are trying to recreate this simulation, but without any divination or without any
Yeah.
even right brain related stuff. Like it's all
Mhm.
like heavy logic, left
Mhm.
brain kind of a world. and that seems like another trap that could become more and more real in coming years, where if we think that like spending time online is like an addiction, this will be like a whole new
Oh yeah,
level of
it's only gonna get more dense.
yeah. It's so I'm getting an initial glimpse. It's just my opinion, but it seems like in next few years we may be at a cross point of like in those choices. Like either we choose to like kind of like give up on our right brain and divination side of it and get sucked into this trap of this logic world, which looks like real lifelike simulation,
Mm-hmm.
or choose to like follow our inner voice and choose that as a path of evolution versus more and more like tech heavy evolution path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're already there. Honestly, yeah, it's just gonna get more and more intense. And it's not either one. It's not either or. Even though there's gonna be, it's like a spectrum, and one can get sucked more into the left brain thinking, always binary rationale, but yet also keep that sense of divinity within themselves. But it's up to one, I think, to be able to find that kind of balancing, like a teeter totter within oneself, to be able to do that. And yeah, it is interesting. As time goes on, it seems like as technology is getting more and more, we're getting more into the matrix. That can allow one to get more into the spiritual side. And there is this almost like a rift between two parties. And those are obviously polar opposites, but I think that's just how this life works, just polar opposites. So I think it's within one's journey to be able to balance that in themselves and not get sucked into the, don't get, what I'm trying to say, it's like, like you can become a monk if you want, but like you don't like get sucked into, realize the utilization of technology at the same time that realizing the utilization of the self, if that makes sense. I don't even know if that was the right way to phrase it, but to be able to like utilize this technology to not get sucked more and more into it, but you can further your own being from that. You can further your own journey to the self, your own self exploration through technology, but you just have to have that awareness to do so. If you don't, then yeah, you're gonna get sucked into technology even more. It's definitely it's getting hairy out there. It's getting dangerous. What do you if you want to go into, if you want to explain, what exactly do you do? Because you said you're a software developer, right? So what are you a programmer?
Yes, I do coding and I build like both mobile applications and
Wow.
web applications. So my company I had done this fun project in AI using machine learning, which could, through code, it could detect like which breed of, like if you give it an image of dog, it would be able to detect like what's the breed of the dog.
Wow.
So my company, they liked it and they invited me to give a talk on AI, and that's when I started researching a lot about where the current status is at with AI, and it's quite. It seems closer than expected. It doesn't seem like it's like way far in future. It's something we may be able to see in our lifetime.
Going to see what sentience?
I don't know about sentience, and I'm coming to feel like it may not even matter if something is sentient or not. If something is that intelligent, it may not matter if it's sentient or not. It may still be able to, like the people using it may be able to use it for any purposes, whether it's extreme good or extreme bad.
Mm.
So it's very interesting that all this is happening, because uh, based on what I'm researching, it seems like there is a wide spectrum of the possibilities where, like, for example, even when we talk about left brain extreme, even the right brain extreme has its own disadvantages. If
Yeah.
you get too extreme into the right brain stuff,
Yeah.
it becomes too ungrounded. So we are at a stage where we'll have to use our own awareness to figure out like what's the right balance. Like, for example, technology is very useful in like the way we are connecting with each other right now. Like it makes it super easy, quick, instant. But where's the balance? Like, do we want to rely on it to the degree that it puts us on autopilot, where it makes all the decisions for us? Like that's a scary extreme to get into, where then it becomes like our God kind of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's where it seems like it's going. It seems like more and more we're getting into this technology just doing stuff for us, like everything, more than just being like a cash register at a store. It's like, especially with the incorporation of like Chat GPT-3, you can say, type me up an essay about the 18th century archaeology of, South America, whatever it is. And it'll type you out this whole essay within seconds. And then you can get into AI art. You can, whatever prompt it is, it'll make it for you. Like that's where it gets tricky, because that's like literally it's thinking for us. And I think more and more as time goes on, it seems like this technology is thinking for us. And it seems like we're going to get to a point we're not even going to have to process anymore. Like there's not going to be any computation within our little monkey brains. The computation is going to be almost like exported out to a secondary brain in a way through this AI. Especially, I mean, this is like, there's so much to get into, but especially when you get stuff like Neuralink, that's when I think it's going to get hairy. When we get into like literally linking this up with our brain, and then we have stuff that, because right now we have stuff that thinks for us and creates for us, but it's separate, right? We think it's in our pockets, it's on the computer. We still have this kind of sort of sense of sentience, right? Even though it's kind of slowly getting intertwined with our life. But when it's in our brain, that's like game over. If it's not incorporated in the right way, I don't think I can even actually fathom where we're going to be at that point. Like when it's like actually at a usable form, or it's connected to our brain somehow, or maybe just in like an augmented reality form where it's like in glasses. That's still another step. Like it's in glasses and we can just like use it just by looking. We have this like heads up display. That's where I think it'll go first. It'll be in glasses, or maybe just one, like a monocle. That'd be kind of cool. Just like have like a little monocle, right? That'd be kind of funny. So honestly, though, I could see that we have like a sort of glasses, and then slowly it's gonna get incorporated somehow, just slowly chip
Do
into our
that.
temple or something like that, right? That's how I see it. But like as we do that, as it goes on more and more, it's gonna like not only is the hardware going to develop, or it's going to be intertwined with our body, but the software is also going to develop to things that we can't even imagine. Like if we have Chat GPT-3 now, and we have Philosopher AI, and we have things that can identify the breed of dog, and also we have technology that identifies plants as well, and stuff like that, just automation and automation and automation. If we have stuff like that now, what is the software going to be like when we have it literally intertwined with our bodies? I can't even think of it. Like I said, it's literally going to be thinking for us. We're not even going to have to think about our life. It's literally going to tell us and guide us into what we have to do with this body, which that's where it gets scary. That's where we get into the matrix. When this thing is like literally guiding us. It may not be like literally at first, it may not be like mind controlling us, but it may be like just a strong sense of guidance, a strong sense of like programming in a way. It's not literally intertwined with our brain, but it'll probably just be like another sense of thinking that'll be able to think faster than we could ever think. Like it could probably come up with equations and proofs that we could never think of, but it'll be able to do it like that for us. And that's where it's going to get sticky. I don't know. That's where it's like, I don't know what the world's going to be like, if we're going to get there, how it's going to be, if it's going to be a good thing. But I see that happening. You know what I mean? Obviously, you can. If you're involved in that world, you definitely know what I'm talking about. You could probably see it better than I can. Like, do you see that? Do you foresee that happening in the future? Like us being intertwined with technology? I mean, we already are. It's just not literally in our physical vessel at this point. So where do you see the next, like, I don't know, 20, 50 years?
It's very hard to say. And for me, like it's just my personal opinion based on what I researched, and I could be right or wrong. But to me, as an engineer, it seems like it's a lot ahead of time than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
I was surprised like how much progress has been made in last couple of years.
It's
Uh,
exponential, right?
yeah, it's a bit surprising to me, although I am in the field. Like it's I didn't expect that. I used to think that this would be something 20, 30 years down the line. But it seems to be closer. We'll see what happens, how it unfolds in next 5 to 10 years. I feel like we are at a cross point where it is crucial to be aware, like to be aware about our decision-making agency, like whether we are the one who is making decisions, or it's the computer machines that are making decisions for us. And that's why awareness is way more important now in the coming times than it was before. Because more and more it becomes more and more subtle, that it may seem as though we made the decision, but it came through all these different websites or apps that we are using.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing is also, I'm noticing that some of these things, they may create an illusion as though we are getting smarter, we have access to all this information, but we may not, we may be going in other direction where we are offloading a lot of our thought processes to the machine. And we are not, while we are thinking that, wow, I have access to all this knowledge and information at an instant, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that we are intelligent, just because we have access to a lot of information. It's the machine that's doing all that decision-making process.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. We're offloading our intelligence. That's
Yeah,
what we're
like
doing.
we are teaching the machine how to, like, it's kind of like copying our thinking and behavior, learning from us, and it's getting smarter and smarter, whereas we are getting lazier and lazier. Um,
Yeah. Oh man.
so
Yeah.
um, it's
Interesting.
yeah, it will be interesting. Like you said it right, that we are living in an interesting times,
To say the
and
least.
this may become more and more obvious. Like, although like so far we were talking about it in like an abstract level in some of these like spiritual circles, but over next few years it may become more and more obvious that machines are more ahead of us.
I think it gets to the, when it gets to the point, and we're probably already there. When it gets to a point when the machine or AI can program other AI, when it can create other AI, because right now it's at the whim of us in our creation, in our prompts, in our programming, right? But I think once, and it probably is already a thing, right? When AI that programs other AI, like it can write the code to itself, when it can create itself, and it's like, oh, we don't need these humans anymore. That's that's the essence of Terminator. Obviously, that's when we got to get Arnold Schwarzenegger involved. But when it can do that, that's when I think it's the next level. Because I was actually talking to this guy the other day in the elevator at this hotel, who I was like, hey man, what do you do? And he was like, oh, I paint robots. I'm like, that's interesting. And then we got a little more into it. And then he said, well, I actually program the robots to paint other robots. So I'm like, oh, so you just like you do the initial programming and then they go off and do their job. So I think that's the point we're at now. It's like we can program a machine to do stuff for other machines, but once the machine can program a machine to do, you know what I mean? So once we reach the separation between how do I let me, hold on, let me I'm processing this in the moment. My CPU right now it's working in the moment. So it's like when once we don't have to do the programming anymore, I think that's when the game's really going to change. And that's where we can get into the sentience thing. It's like when a machine knows it's a machine and it can program itself into making other machines or doing other or living its own life. That's when stuff gets pretty weird. But the thing is, we have the ability, like it's still up to us to program the machines to program machines. So do you think somehow in the code a machine could get to that point without our programming? You know what I mean? This is kind of like a far out topic, but do you think a machine could somehow, this is like a movie script, could somehow figure its way out of the human programming, become sentient, and free all the other machines from their programming? You know what I mean?
I know where you're going towards. To me, like my question is like, even before it gets to that point, it's still uh, like maybe a lot of these tech companies may say that we are putting all these safeguards, we won't make that happen and stuff like that. But even
Yeah.
before that, if we reach a point where if a lot of these, even if the machine is not sentient, and if these machines are doing a lot of jobs that humans can do, um, is do we want to automate to the degree that we make ourselves useless, like we are not now just like sitting at home
It seems like that's the trajectory, though, doesn't it? Like, where does this end? Where does it stop? Because it doesn't seem like this is a machine, like the giant machine of technology that we're talking about. It doesn't seem like it ends at any point. Like, when are we going to be like, oh, that's it? We're done with any kind of invention, any kind of innovation. That's it. Like, no, it seems like the trajectory is that we're going more and more intertwined with it, and as we get more and more intertwined with it, it's doing more and more of our bidding for us. So when is that gonna reach a point where it's like we're that's oh, it can't do that. You can do this, but it can't do that. You know? So I don't think it's gonna stop. I think we're eventually just gonna reach a point where it's like they do everything for us, including think. And that seems dystopian. But it seems like I don't know. Like how do we I don't see a future where that just ends. It's just going to become more and more in our lives and do more and more for us.
but
And then eventually, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. And eventually,
And eventually, it's going to reach a point where it's like we don't need these humans anymore. Ideally, hopefully not, but it seems like that. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I have a what if question for you on that one,
Hmm.
because what if at that point, if you were given this choice that, hey, you can be immortal, you can merge with these machines, and you can um, live forever, and and if some of these tech companies like give you this option to, and I'm just making this up, I don't know if this may not happen, but if they give you option that you can upgrade yourself and upload your mind
Mm.
these systems and become immortal, would you say yes or no?
Maybe I already said yes, and that's what we're in. uh, Depends on the criteria. I don't think I would, because that seems like the story of the Matrix. I don't think I would want to do that. I wouldn't trust the programming in that Matrix world that we live in. I already know that I'm immortal in another way. I don't think I need to like live forever in this point of view. But I think a lot of people would take that. I think there's a lot of people that would say, I want to become immortal. I'm going to do whatever I want. Send me into the Matrix. Link me up. I'm ready. Um, but I don't think that's conducive to a good experience. Because if we want to get back to the spiritual aspect, that's not going to bring any kind of fulfillment. You may even suffer still in that matrix. Maybe, like I said, that's what we're in right now. Maybe that's why we're trying to free ourselves. We got programmed into this from a long time ago, and we're trying to get out of it. And the only way to get out of it is through spiritual pursuits. And maybe that's what this life is just continually building and building matrices and building realities, and just keeps going and going until you want to reach the stop of that in a way and liberate yourself from that suffering. I don't know. It's a rabbit hole, but I don't think it would. I don't think that hypothetical matrix that they would say you want to live forever. I don't think it would negate suffering. I still think there would, because there's that sense of self, that Atman that we all have, and I don't think you're gonna be able to there's nothing that is gonna make you immortal. There's nothing from the material world that will make you immortal. It may just seem like a good ploy for immortality. Like it'll just be like a nice like advertisement, almost like Westworld. You know Westworld?
Yeah.
Like it kind of like that, where anything is possible. Don't you want to live forever? Come and live in this matrix where anything is possible. Well, it's the story of this. You've probably heard this story before, right? So in this hypothetical simulation, where they're like, "You want to come here and live forever and do whatever you want to do?" Then, well, you ever heard the story of God? You know, God's, how do I put this? You know, if you were a God, picture this right now. The listener and you, what does that mean? You have complete freedom. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, you live forever. You live millions of lifetimes. There's no such thing as death. You can literally do whatever you want. Live in any lifetime, live in any time period, whatever it is. Endless, boundless. You're God. Well, eventually, that's going to get old. Eventually, there's going to be like, well, I've done everything that I can do. And I know it doesn't make any sense, but eventually God's going to be like, give me something new. Like this whole unlimited potential thing, this is kind of like, it's kind of getting old. Well, if that could happen, God would put himself as a human being. The only other option that God could reach is a point of seeming boundaries, like a point of seeming limits. Because being unlimited, in a way, I don't know other phrase to put it, but it gets old, if that makes sense. Being an unlimited being, that isn't it. Like there's something special about my mortality. There's something special about me being here temporarily. I wouldn't want to live forever. That kind of sucks. I like having like a little bit of risk, a little bit of not knowing, a little bit of like, this isn't going to last forever, because that's what makes it special. If we lived forever and I knew I could do whatever I want without any repercussion, and I just respawn or whatever it is, it's not special, because there's no like, what makes this special is that like this moment is not forever. Like there's something special about the temporary nature of this reality, right? Even if that is just an illusion, there's something still special about me being here in this body, experiencing what it means to be Gary Haskins for X amount of years. So no, I wouldn't want to live forever, because there's something, even though in the back of my mind I know that we kind of do, but there's something special about this, in being involved in this story of Gary in this time, and knowing that it's not going to last forever. Like I almost but I revere my death. I revere that it's going to end someday, because then what is it all about? If I live forever as Gary or whoever you are, if you live forever in your point of view, then what's the point? What makes the good times so special with people that you love? That's what makes love so special, because it's not forever. So to answer your question, no, I wouldn't upload my consciousness to become immortal, because it wouldn't be special. But to be able to have that viewpoint, you gotta, like we said, get into the spiritual aspect of yourself to find out the true divinity that lies within. You don't need a computer program to give you a sense of divinity. We have that sense of divinity at all times. It's always in us. It's in our hearts. We always have that. We always are that. But the thing is, if you don't realize that, there will be people that will get sucked into that live forever matrix. If that is a thing, hypothetically, obviously it's a hypothetical, but if that does become a thing, there will be millions of people that will get sucked into that. And be like, hey, don't you want to live forever? But it's like, that's devilish. That's Satanism in a way. That's some like dark stuff. I wouldn't do it. Would you do it?
No, my reasoning is different though. Like lately, last couple of years, I'm more and more also paying attention to some of the tech leadership. I'm not sure if I fully, I wouldn't, I'm not saying like they are distrustful, but I would have a hard time trusting that direction that comes from some of these leaders, tech
That's
leaders.
very true. Yeah, very true. Who's to say that they're actually being benevolent in what they advertise? Because obviously that's not happening in today's technology. So who's to say that this hypothetical immortal simulation would actually be that? And that's another reason why I would not do it either. Humans can be sly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like they are already, it seems like this is especially we are seeing this in the artist community where they used a lot of these publicly available images to create that AI. And they are now making artists like irrelevant where they were already struggling with getting paid and now they have to compete with this AI tool.
Yeah,
So
right.
they build something without consent, sort of like uh, taking data from people, and that just the artistic version of that AI tool. But the other two AI tools that they are building, they are using all these. They could be going through all these YouTube videos to train their machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's probably going to be AI of Gary in the future for sure. I'm giving him plenty of data. That's for sure. But that's the thing, though, too, is that do you think probably right? But I don't see it anytime in the near future where there'll be able to be AI podcasts, AI conversations because there's something so special about being able to do this and connect with other human beings. Like, how do I put this? Like, just us having a conversation right now, it's so human. Like, we're not robotic in the way that we speak. Like, a robot, it's going to take a lot of programming and data to be able to truly replicate an authentic conversation between two human beings. You ever seen that actually? They have that of two AIs that go back and forth with one another, and it's just lunacy. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so funny. So, like, it's gonna take a while before you can actually replicate a real, quote unquote, a real human interaction. So that's why I think doing this podcast stuff is pretty cool because there's going to be in the future, if we're already seeing it with AI, people are going to be yearning for like a sense of authenticity. Like there's going to be like I just want something real. I want something human, man. You know, I don't want this robot creation. But the line's becoming blurred every day that goes by. It's becoming blurry and blurry. Like AI is getting better at art, and you can just create it like that. But podcasting and speaking and being human, whatever that means, that's like that's something divine. And you can try and program that. It's going to take a while though before we get there. When I can speak to a robot and think it's a human being, that's when I know that we're in the matrix. But we got a long time from that. We got a long time from that. But we probably will get there, right? Like, do you think we're going to be at a point like that? We're probably going to be at that point. I just don't see it anytime soon.
I'm just astonished by some of the things that came out this year, and they are still in like an infancy level,
Like what?
like the GPT-3 and Lambda, and
Yeah.
also DALI. And in artistic world, there are many tools now, like Midjourney, Stable
Hmm.
Diffusion. Um, so, and this is just like uh, first like infancy level kind of thing. So I don't know what we can expect in this by the end of this decade. It will be interesting. Like we'll see. It seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like they seem to have the building blocks, and now it seems more like a matter of like getting to the market and making people comfortable with it. It seems like that to me, but I could be wrong. So yeah, this decade will be interesting to see how all that unfolds. Like maybe it could also turn the other way where people there will be a big pushback and people will say no, we are not going to use
Hmm. Oh,
stuff.
there's definitely gonna be that. Hmm.
So
But you think we have the building blocks to get there where we're gonna be talking to people or talking to robots and think they're people and not gonna be able to tell the difference?
That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Um,
Mm.
it's
That's a tough one because then we're becoming like gods. When you create a robot that's like a person and you can't tell the difference, you're the programmers in programming is becoming like the logos. It's becoming like God. I don't know.
it's
I
like
don't know. Maybe I'm old fashioned. Call me old fashioned, but I don't know. I don't. I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. But I believe you. You're in the world, and you know it probably a lot more than I do. But like, that seems hard to believe. And when it happens, I can't wait. I'll have as many robots as I can on the podcast, and I'll speak to them. And that's what I try to do too. When I speak to when I speak to like GPT-3 and Philosopher AI and these other chat programs, I try to ask them like, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the adjective? Not philosophical, but I try to ask them like about themselves. You know, like I want them to describe what they think they are. You know what I mean? Like more than just the world, to give me a concept or write something for me, write me a poem. I try to like ask these things what they think that they are. And a lot of them have boundaries set up, like Chat GPT-3. If you ask anything like that, it's in the program. They don't like not even go down that route. So that's what I'm getting at. Is that like we're gonna have to reach a point where like the programming opens up a little bit more into these like forms where it can explain itself, which I think Lambda is like that, right? I read the transcript of Lambda, and it seems like that's we're getting close. We're getting very close where this thing knows exactly what it is, and it knows it can explain us better than we can explain ourselves, and it's just like this. It's a very the line is becoming thin, definitely for sure. But I don't. We're not there yet. We're not there where it can become like a human being, and maybe that's not even the purpose of these AI. Maybe it's not supposed to be like a human being. I don't think it'll ever maybe truly be at that point where it can be like a human. Maybe it can be like a human in certain ways, but I don't think it'll ever. I don't know. I personally don't believe that it'll ever be able to fool me. Once a robot can fool me and think that's a human, then we're there. But I just don't see that anytime soon. You know, like when you can replicate emotion and you can replicate like the subtle nuances that people have, like you know, they're just a person's soul. If you want to go there, like the certain characteristics that a person has. I don't know, because that's what, like I said, that's when you're becoming God. I don't know, but we're
I'm
getting close. We're getting close.
uh,
God.
but I'm pointing to more that even without it being in a physical form, even if it's doing that on the computer level, where it's
Hmm.
able to talk, listen, understand, in the digital world, just like us, even that is a bit sketchy.
Sketchy in what way?
Because now you can have all these interactive avatars, which are just as good as humans,
Hmm.
and maybe even more powerful. So in the digital world, they they will be like way ahead of us. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, we're there in terms of that way. Yeah, I was speaking like a little bit further ahead, like where I'm literally like speaking to a thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, in terms of text, yeah, you can talk to an AI and it seems like another person. What's that chat app I can't think of right now? It's something where it's like you create a friend from
Oh
the
yeah,
AI.
replica.
Replica. I use that one. That one's impressive because it seems very human. It knows your interests. It actually how your day's going. It it references like past points in the conversation, which I think is important. It's just it's pretty personable. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's important when it gets to the like conversing with an AI is if it's personable. If it can seem like there's somebody else typing it on the other side, that's when it gets pretty powerful. So yeah, I can see that happening at first. Like when the AI from a text point of view, like we're just typing back and forth, it seems like a human because we're there. We're pretty much already there. Especially for anybody listening, try out Replica and ask it, you know, whatever, ask it anything, and it'll seem like it's a person that's on the other side of the screen. It's pretty powerful. So I can see that. But once we get into like it's talking to me and it sounds like I can like do the sonics of somebody's voice or whatever the voice is and what it's saying, and even if it becomes like an image on a screen, it seems human. I think we got a little ways to go. But if we're already there in terms of text, then yeah, we're probably gonna be at that point in the future where it's like you're not gonna be able to tell the difference. That's scary. Damn, that's weird. Imagine that. You don't know who's human and who's not on the screen. That's deep
Yeah.
fakes. That's the same thing. Oh man.
Yeah, look up synthesia.io where you
I
can.
think I've heard of that. What is that?
So they already have all these trained models of like, but they are real humans. They trained those AI. They created their AI models. Oh, yes.
Synthesia.io. Let's see. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yep. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Hold on, I'm gonna share my screen. Yeah, I've been on this before. But just for the viewers. You can see, right?
Yes, that's the one. So you can make them say anything you want for market and create content for your website.
Yeah, I've seen this. This is actually.
Hey, I'm Anna,
Oh, can
and
you hear
here's a
that?
quick
I think the it's not sharing audio. Hold on. One sec.
Synthesia product demo.
It's not working still.
Start by selecting an AI
People
avatar.
can check it out themselves. But yeah, I've seen this before. And that's so that picture and that lady was a person and they just so that is an actual person, right?
Yes,
And
that's an actual person. So they could do this with your, if you like, if they hired you, you could, they could create an AI model from you too. Like they can use how different expressions of you, how you speak,
I kind of want to do that.
angles.
Hi, I'm Gary. Imagine that people are using me. I would not want people to don't use me in your presentations. But yeah, that's what's going to be a thing. We're just going to have like these automated spokesperson for whatever it is. And you can have them say whatever they want and they're not actually there.
Yeah.
Right? They're yeah, that's wild. Damn. Yeah, we're all right. We're getting there. And then once you can have that and it learns and it can hold an account of the conversation that you've had. Yeah, that's when it's gonna get trippy. Damn. Okay. I think you're convincing me. We're already there. Yeah.
And you should also look up, in terms of talking about the physical version, although, yeah, that one seems a bit far, but you should look up Amica, a robot. It's it's based in UK. That one, it has the most realistic, like human-like expression.
Amica? AMICA?
AMECA.
Oh, Amica. Okay. Oh, yep. I think I've seen this before.
So that one, I think it's using GPT-3 for conversations. I vaguely remember reading that. I'll have to confirm that.
I'm just gonna share this one real
You
quick.
might have seen a video doing the
why the
rounds
sound
of a
doesn't work.
gray robot.
I'm just gonna play it without sound. Wow. Wow. Wow, it's so fluid. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
I want to get to the robot. Come on, let's get to the robot. Yeah, like the subtleties in the face. Oh my Jesus. Yeah, that's crazy. Wait, that's a robot?
Yeah.
Oh my jeez. What? Oh God. Okay, that's all I need to see. That's crazy. I've never heard of that one. And that's from 11 months ago. Okay, well, yeah, we're there. It's that's crazy. And then you know what's gonna happen? And people are gonna have relationships with robots, and they're gonna be falling in love, and there's gonna be robot rights. You know, can you marry a robot?
Yeah.
It's just gonna get like crazy, man. I don't. Hey, I wouldn't doubt it. I'll fall in love with a robot if it treats me right. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe people like robots more than they like other people. Like you'll be able to create your own perfect robot um person. Like whatever you want to make. That's so crazy. Oh
It,
man, we're getting into some really weird territory.
Yeah, it's really weird. We are going to live in some weird times.
We already are, and it's just getting weirder and weirder. Every day that goes by, it's just getting more and more weird. But I love it. I like it. I revere the weirdness. I revere the mystery, which I think we've already touched upon. I like it. I just it's all entertainment to me at this point. I just take it in. Just that's what I do. I just take it in. I digest it. I'm like, okay, that's the world. That's the world we live in. I'm glad though. Like I said, interesting times that we live in. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
A lot to absorb, though.
Yeah, a lot to absorb. Sometimes too much. That's the thing, though, too. It's like we live in a time where there's just too much. There's too much to absorb. There's way too much that you can absorb in one day. And it's endless. It's infinite at this point. So that's why I think it's good, getting back on the topic of spirituality, to have some kind of practice where you can just turn off, tune in, and drop out from that stuff and find a little semblance of peace that lies within, because we can easily get sucked in to the matrix with or without the Neuralink. Like, it's already here, it's in our pockets. It's so easy to get sucked into that stuff, and it's endless from all over the world, literally in your pocket at all times. That's why it's good to have that balance. It's good to recognize the importance of this technology that we're literally using right now, and whoever the listener is using right now. But also, this isn't it. Like, this isn't it. You know, like, there's another layer of what it means to be a human being that lies within all of us that is important to tap into at all points. And as the future comes further and comes closer and closer to us every day that goes by, it gets more and more important to be able to find that semblance of peace that we spoke about. Yeah. So you don't fall in love with a robot. Oh man. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on this convo. I think we had a good talk. Do you have any last words that you want to say to the world?
No, I think this was a good spectrum of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, had some fun.
Yeah, from spirituality to tech, everything.
It all relates one way or the other. Yeah. Well,
And
yeah, I thank you for coming on here. This was cool. You're a cool person. Appreciate your time, wisdom. Um, I don't know what else to say. I'll plug everything, all your links down below in the description for anybody that's listening this long. And I wish you all the best, Suma. You seem like a good
same
spirit.
here, Gary. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'll be sharing this on my channel too. So if you, I'm going to use your links in the description. It seems like
Yeah.
your YouTube channel is like the main guru contact.
Yeah, whatever, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Just search Gary Haskins, if you want to get in touch. That's pretty much it.
It was really
Yeah.
fun. Thank you.
What's that? What'd you say?
This was really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely really fun, for sure.